I'm just like a genetic freak, and like I figured that out quite early. Like I remember walking into practice my rookie year, coach was like, "What you eat last night?" I'm like, "Oh, I had some hamburger helper." He was like, "What?" But this was like, we didn't have training table, we didn't have a practice facility. When I was in NBA, like we didn't have access to all of the things we have now.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you don't know what you don't know.
Welcome back to The Young Man in the Three, as always presented by 342 Productions, Wondery Media, and today's ep is presented by our friends at NBA 2K. Today's guest is four-time champion, NBA Finals MVP, and current acting executive director of the NBPA, Andre Iguodala. This one has been a long time coming. This is a tough man to pin down, one of the busiest people in the business, one of the busiest people that I know, but every time he steps in front of a mic, he drops gems. This is our last conversation from the NBPA Sanctuary in Andalusia, Spain, where we also taped the eps with the Thompson brothers and Redick Gobert. We taped this live at the NBPA's Performance Summit. Iggy had a number of duties out there. He was performing. He was gracious enough to give us some time. He has a ton of gems on performance, business, leadership, everything in between. Before we get to Iggy, it's NFL season. Thanks, as always, to our friends at DraftKings for sponsoring the show. Your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. A lot of loaded games this weekend. First one, Colts at Rams. We're taping this Wednesday morning. Line right now is Colts +3. Colts undefeated, 3-0. Rams 2-1. This feels like two of the surprise teams of the league so far. Both kind of rocking and rolling in different ways. Danny Dimes, Matt Stafford. Excited to see that one. The other one I'm watching for is Ravens Chiefs. Right now, Ravens -2.5. Ravens feel super desperate. They're attacking Marlon Humphrey in the comments. The fans are doing meltdown videos on Instagram. It's only 3 weeks into the year. I was at the Chiefs game Sunday night. Looks like they finally figured some stuff out in the second half. This is obviously a great rivalry we've had over the last half decade. So I feel like we're going to get another instant classic Sunday. The last game I'm watching for, I think our friends in Dallas are not, hopefully for their sake, not going to be tuning into this. I didn't realize these guys were playing so earlier in the season. Packers at Dallas. Right now, it's Packers -7. Sort of still can't believe the Packers lost this past weekend, but Cowboys defense might honestly be the worst defense of all time. Micah Parsons coming back home. We already talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Because the Packers kind of tricked it off against the Browns this past weekend, I feel like they're going to be out for blood. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code YoungMan. That's code YoungMan to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Without further ado, here's Andre Iguodala.
Quiero hablar español todos.
Just keep going. I want to start with where we're sitting. Andalusia, Spain, the NBPA Sanctuary. We're in year 4 of this currently. This is my first year here. I've been blown away. I got here yesterday morning. We did an ep with the Thompson brothers at the gym. It's a really special place. You've been through 19 NBA off seasons as a player. Can you explain what this place represents?
Well, it's good to, I got to be careful. In this new role, I can't speak as freely. But it's really a get away from the noise. And, social media, you talk about COVID, their generation's kind of becoming late adolescents, young adults now. And so you're starting to see some effects there. And I think it's just a good way for them to get away from the noise. There's a lot of noise around professional sports. Sports has become a huge asset class now. You see private equity investing in sports. You see all these valuations, men and women's sports, all-time highs. But I don't think people understand the ramifications that come with that, and a lot of the pressures that come with that. You talk about gambling, you talk about betting, the prop bets, all the madness. I get family members who never watch sports asking me about a 12-leg prop bet.
It's a different world.
It's a different world. But all that stress and all that comes with that, it is pushed onto the athlete.
Yeah.
And you're not you talk about the consumer, you talk about the fan and the interaction there. Historically, as an athlete, you go back to the beginning of sports, which were the Olympics. And there was, the athlete was set above the rest, and I've even read recently, probably in the last 15 years, like sports has become the new church, where everybody's like the community's gathering, like the essence of sports, and all the pressures as an athlete. I think it's changed with what comes with it. I think the Sanctuary has been a beautiful brainchild of Mateo, in terms of being able to see the world, get into a peaceful space, and then you have a mapped out schedule of this is how you should treat your summers. Regardless of where you're at, it should be a focus. It should be mapped out. Before it was like, all right, get to the summer, take 2 or 3 weeks off, have some fun, go to Miami, go to LA, and then all right, get back on the court, and you just working. Now it's more tailored. Okay, you come into the off season, what I need to work on. What were my deficiencies last seasons? How am I expanding my game? What year am I in? What part of my contract am I in? What teams can best use my skill sets? But then now they're going further. What do I want to do after my career is over? And then how do I take the mindset of an athlete? It's the same skill sets. It's just a different part of the brain. And how do I activate that, knowing that to be a professional athlete, I'm in the 0.0001%. And it's just really mapping out, your future. These kids are 19, 20 years old. When I ask the kids how old they are, they're saying like the Thompson twins are like 21, 22.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So to that point, how did your personal approach change for your summers, your off seasons? Looking back to, your rookie year, your second year in Philly, to even getting to the Bay and later on in your career, how you would approach the, June 20th to September 15th window, with the caveat that when you were in the Bay, your off seasons were a little shorter than than normal.
Right. So in Philly, it was first round exits, getting to the playoffs. So you had a long summer. I was in the gym a lot, and I was very similar to the players now, where they're in the gym a lot. They're workers, and I, you got to give credit where credit's due. Like, these kids are working harder than ever. They have a different skill set. They've evolved the game of basketball. They're carrying that torch. They're in the gym 3-4 times a day. That was me. I was always trying to find the athlete. Like Corey McGady was a guy I looked at, and that would be an interesting name for me to say amongst casual NBA fans. He may not be a household name, but this guy was a cosmetics guy, where like how he looked and how he presented to the world was his number one focus. So like how his arms looked in a shirt, he cared about. Someone had a joke, he changed cars like jeans. Like, he was the first guy seen in a car club. So he was responsible with his finances, because he's like, I like different cars, so I won't buy all these cars, so I'll be in a car club. You get access to different cars, but like he cared about like how he presented himself. And so when he worked a different way than I ever seen, where it was just driving his focus on himself. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take that approach when I'm working out. And then I would, I had the same agent as Kobe Bryant. So I was always stealing, tips. I had somebody watching Kobe's, stealing things, writing things down, giving it to me. Like Kobe would dribble on a wall with his left hand in one angle for 20 minutes and then change the angle for another 20 minutes and so on and so forth. So I would steal that. And so I was always trying to identify who was the best at any particular thing. And then I would just try to implement that into my regimen and my schedule. And then, as you get older, it's not about how hard you work, it's how smart you work. And then when your season's ending in June and you're playing over 4 years, you go to the finals, you play the extra season. So now we got an extra 80 games over 4 years. So I played 5 NBA seasons in 4 years. So your body's just different. Your mind's different. You actually need a break. And so I took that time now I'm like, how can I be more efficient with my time? And when you win a championship, a lot of doors open that you never thought would open before. And so it's like, okay, what are those opportunities? I'm in the Bay. When I went to the Bay originally, I knew that was a place that had a sector or a business that athletes never really got a chance to tap into. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity to try to get in the door. They didn't open the door until we won the championship. But once the door opened,
phone started ringing.
Right, the phone started ringing. And so that was a different type of focus. And so as you get older, it's just how do you become more efficient with your time? And really it's about how do I not waste time? So every minute, every hour is scheduled, mapped out, and working on myself or my business or, whatever duties that I have that I'm trying to tackle amongst my goals.
So to that point, I think part of what makes this community so cool is the networking opportunities. I mean, look around this room, there's, a million different conversations that all the guys could have in here that I think would be beneficial, not just in the sport itself, but business, health, wellness, performance, everything like that. This is something that as long as I've known you, to your point before, you've always been really good at. I sort of like joke about it, but I remember I saw you one time at the Fairmont in Berkeley in between, it was like game 3 and 4 of the finals, like this like super intense final series, and you're there with your notepad interviewing a startup founder. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're just having, you're able to sort of like lock in on game 3, lock in on this meeting, lock back in on game 4. What kind of lessons do you try to pass on to the younger generation when it comes to that focus? And I kind of wanted to follow up to your point earlier about even with the Kobe question about how much of this is sort of show versus tell? Like how much of this is just watch you or watch some of the other guys who sort of had similar levels of success to you do this versus like you actually spell out a blueprint of, do these 5 things and it's going to lead to success?
Yeah, well, I try to surround myself with the experts in their fields, so I have a group of folks, whether it's Jeff Jordan, it's Andreessen Horowitz, or it's Alan Waxman, 6th Street Capital, like that. However long it takes me to drive to practice, I'm learning something. So whether it's a podcast or whether it's a newsletter I turn into Speechify to do the audio of the newsletter, like every minute, every second counts. That's how I try to think about it. And so it was really, when you're set, you got to write down your goals. Like that's something I still try to do to this day. Like write down your goals, and then when you write down your goals, you map out, all right, how do I achieve this goal? And you got to start really from scratch. And as an athlete, you have to have a certain level of ego and confidence to succeed or to survive. So it's really hard to humble yourself. So with athletes, the one thing I'm telling them is like, okay, I know how you perceive what I'm doing. It looks really sexy and you think it's really cool. But it's like starting from scratch all over again. And you have to be willing to kind of humble yourself in terms of admitting what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for an athlete to do. And so I feel like that's really my, I say once you master something, it's your duty to teach it. Like that's really my duty. Like how do I get the guys to understand, like Alan Waxman, I just heard him say this on a podcast this week. It's like, how do you get tired of yourself? In terms of like, get over yourself. And how is it about the group? How is it about the team? How is it about, thinking less of yourself for the greater good? And a lot of that showed up in a lot of my success, coming off the bench, not starting anymore, getting rid of the ego, and then how that actually led to some of the successes in on and off the court that I've had. And so with the athlete and with just being a mentor to the guys, go do an internship. Like I've done like 7, 8 internships.
What was your first one?
My first one was during the lockout. interesting enough, a lot of talk about CBA negotiations, the W's, what's going right, areas they're trying to improve upon with their CBA. We had a lockout in 2011, so I had some free time. And so I went to, through Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, who was my private wealth management firm at the time. I had them set up like 4 different types of investor, whether it was stocks, whether it was bonds, whether it's private equity, or whether it was early stage startup. We drove around in a Tesla in 2011. So this is when it was like that little bitty roadster. And like, you don't know what you don't know, but imagine if I would have put some money in Tesla in 2011, right? So I spent about 3 or 4 days in New York following a different type of investor over the 4 days and just trying to get some exposure. And I think Mateo just said it, just be curious. That's the big thing. You got to be willing to be curious. You got to be willing to be vulnerable to not be the best at what you do when you walk in the room. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of resilience. That's what sport really is about. And it's remnants of it in any sector of business you go into.
I'm interested in the crossovers you see in these different worlds, because you're somebody who has such an extraordinary attention to detail. I mean, we're sort of just based off listening to you for the last 10 minutes, you can hear it. Where you learn that, and how much that attention to detail is sort of for you to reach the peaks you've reached on the court, you have to have it. There's no way around it. But in these other fields, starting from scratch, basically how those two things have helped each other.
Yeah. Well, using golf, for example, it's probably one of the hardest sports to play because I joke with Luke Walton. He's he hates golf because he's one of the most, for a white guy, gifted athletes in terms of the stature, right? I gotta wake y'all up a little bit. But he was you can see somebody's out of shape, 20% body fat, the opposite of what you think a specimen of an athlete is, and you can just kick their ass. That guy can kick my ass on a golf course. This isn't a sport. But it's it's mental.
Yeah.
So it's the mental side of it. And so for me, it was being vulnerable, being willing to go in somewhere and say, I don't know, and what do I need to learn? And I think as being an underdog is always a good thing because you got to really work for it. We always talk about the best 14-year-old basketball player in the world, most of the time doesn't make it to the NBA. People don't understand that part of our world that we talk about all the time. Who was the best freshman when we were freshmen in high school in 1999? That was crazy. That guy didn't make it to the NBA.
Yeah.
Because now we know those guys are more mature, they grow faster, and then they just peak out earlier. Where, my son's 6'8", 175, and I just know, all right, once you gain 30 pounds, fast twitch comes in, you get off your mom's boob because, you're not spoiled anymore. You're gonna take off, right? So, but then he's trying to prove himself, and so he's working harder because he's I gotta get there.
Yeah.
But then once you get there, you realize everybody's really good. Everybody sits up here. But what separates this guy and what separates the 150th ranked NBA player from the number 10 guy is really that. That's where the attention to the detail comes into play. And then guys like Kobe, I was talking to Shaden earlier about his footwork, being able to pivot off both feet. A guy like Kyrie, spend a whole summer just shooting with your left hand. Or having a basketball everywhere you go. I always had a basketball in the car. No matter what, I might just grab a ball and just dribble down the street. Bringing that youth back, you got to have a love for it. But very, very, it's in there, the small details that separate the good from the great. That translates, right? So then when I transfer into this field, I'm trying to learn from the best. And I'm trying to figure out what are you doing that separates you from everyone else, because everyone has access to, especially in the age of information, everyone has access to all this information.
Yeah.
But how are you using it differently that's setting you apart from everybody else?
And some of this with the detail on the basketball side of things is also film.
Yes.
Study. Just as you look at Tyrese Halliburton, for example, that's a huge, his jump in that part of the space has been such a sort of major impact for him and why he's been able to sort of thrive.
I want to touch on that too. I was just talking to Ayo from Chicago, or he was, I was talking loud, so hopefully he heard me. like I would read books on body language, like so anything that I thought would give me an edge, like in terms of leadership. And so Psychology of Money is a book that I'm reading. It's like a really easy read. And I'll tell a player to read it, and it's like, wow, why should I read this? I'm like, well, this doesn't apply to you. Like, you do well with your money, but I think this is gonna help you with leadership because you're supposed to be giving this information to a guy that may not read this book. And so I was talking to Ayo about this book. It was about the body language. And so I read this in Philly. Like, Philly's a rough place to be a professional athlete. Just their fan base and their passion. But just learning the body language of my teammates, learning the body language of my opponent, like that's a form of film too. And so when you read like Behave, Robert Sapolsky's another amazing book. It's just a study of the brain. Like when you learn how the brain works, you learn why like everything's rooted in trauma, why people react, why they do what they do. Like those are things that you can put in your, on your tool belt to give you, like those are details. Like those are really small things. And so it's the same as film. So I tell my son, like if you're dreaming about basketball, if you're just walking, thinking about basketball, like that's a form of studying. And so, but it's just really how you implement that and what you're thinking about that sets you apart from everybody else.
All right, quick timeout. Have you all seen NBA 2K26 this year? It's crazy. The gameplay's got this brand new motion engine. Everything feels smoother, tighter, catch and shoot is butter, and rhythm shooting locked in. I jumped into my team the other night and listen, I've got Paige Beckers pulling up from way deep, shout out to her, Rookie of the Year, Shaq bodying dudes like it's 0-1, and Magic Johnson running point, talking wild mid-game, no-look dimes, that signature smile, just showtime. Plus, the W is finally in my team, which is long overdue. And if you're into my career, they revamped the whole story. It's cleaner, more focused. The city's trimmed down, so you're on the court quicker. No fluff, just hoops. I have a personal 2K story. They keep asking for these, and I keep getting beaten 2K. So one of these days, I'm going to win a game. But until then, I keep playing and I keep losing. But the game is not my fault, not the game's fault. NBA 2K26 is finally here, and it lives up to the hype. If you're not in it yet, you're just watching highlights. Ball over everything.
You see collectibles, I see years of blood, sweat, and tears. Here's the thing, iconic moments don't just happen. For every highlight you see, there's thousands of hours of work you don't. But when you put in the work and bet on yourself, you create an impact that isn't just seen on a stat sheet, it's felt throughout the world. Create your own moments that they'll never forget. Ball over everything.
Everything you're describing right now, I remember I had a conversation with Duncan Robinson, our friend, about your guys' time in Miami together at one point, and he said his favorite part of that year was just hanging out with you on the plane and hanging at dinner, just kind of being a sponge for all of this information. What do you think makes a good vet? And besides what they, can do on the court, because, we've seen, obviously, LeBron, but there's a lot of examples of guys who are, still performing on the court. But in terms of locker room importance?
I think selflessness. Just as a professional athlete, you don't know who cares about you and who doesn't. And that's something that doesn't show up on any analytical study. Like you got your coach, you got GM, you got the ownership group or governorship group. You got your agent, you got your parents, you got your friends, you got your teammates. And it's some way or shape or form, everybody's competing with everybody. Like your friends are competing for your attention. There's the access to the wealth. Same with family. Coach wants to keep his job. The GM wants to keep his job. Ownership group wants to win. Your teammates are competing with you just as much as your opponent's competing against you. Your agent doesn't want to get fired. It's just a crazy world we live in that people don't understand the trauma that comes with that. And the one message I leave with every athlete is when you retire, who are you gonna call? You're not paying for all your friends to go on vacation with you. You're not taking this, lavish trips. Like you can still maintain your lifestyle, but now it's really just you and your family. Like now you're not bringing however many people you brought with you on the way up. So the only people that can afford to go on these same trips with you are your teammates. And so you don't want to wait till it's too late where you're 15, I've spent 19 years in the league. It's like, wait, I don't have any relationships that I've fostered that can carry me for the next 60 years, 50 years of my life. Most guys are leaving the league now like 26, 27. Like the average, people don't understand like the average career is like 3 years now. And then 40% of the league is turned over every 18 months. Yeah. Like just those sheer numbers alone let it's only been 5,000 NBA players ever. And so we just live in like a different realm. And I'm not saying we're better or worse than anybody else, but it's just like we live a different life. And so being a vet really comes down to fostering those relationships and letting the guys know, like, we have to take care of each other because no one goes through the experiences that we go through or experience the traumas that we go through. And like, we're each other's therapy. And so like me sharing what I went through with Duncan to help him isn't just helping Duncan, it's helping me because I got to get this shit off my chest.
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about the sanctuary, you know, you got the guys, like these guys are on different teams, they're used to competing, but they're bonding with each other too. So it's just a lot that's being done that we don't realize that's helping us, you know, sort through a lot of life's ills.
What do you think the keys are to building mental toughness, fortitude and toughness?
Not being able to, limiting options. So we talk about the portal, we talk about NCAA, we talk about NIL. These kids are, they're missing like resilience, they're missing accountability, they're missing constructive criticism, they're missing all of those things in the formative years of their lives that really is what is turning them into the success when they become a professional athlete. And so when things get hard, they're able to just pack up and go to another situation because they couldn't get through what they needed to get through to get to where they have to go. Like they're missing that part.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key, you know, being able to have someone tell you the truth. And when we talk about how much money's in sports now, like we aren't being as honest as we should be, or as we used to be, you know, and I'm not an old school guy where we were better. Like these kids are better basketball players than ever before. Like it's just hands down. There's no doubt about it. But there are some, you know, like the details, you know, the characteristics, the values, like it's not their fault. It's just society is switched a little bit. And so we're missing a little bit of that. We got to get back to.
Wellness is clearly a big part of the program here at the Sanctuary. Was there a moment for you in your career where the switch flipped in terms of taking care of your body?
Yes. I'm just like a genetic freak. And like, I mean, I figured that out quite early. But like, I remember walking into practice my rookie year, coach was like, "What you eat last night?" I'm like, "I had some hamburger helper." He was like, "What?" But this was like, we didn't have training table. We didn't have a practice facility when I was in NBA. Like we didn't have access to all of the things we have now.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you don't know what you don't know. You know, like when I got traded and went to another team and I saw the practice facility for the first time, I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Like I could come in here anytime I want. Like I just had, now these guys have access to 4 or 5 gyms anytime they want. And then they have access to the best trainers. They have access to, you know, all the data. You know, now I was doing blood tests, you know, every 6 months, tracking my, whether it's iron levels or tracking my vitamin D. You know, now I do, you know, I just got a vitamin D shot 2 days ago, or I do hydration. I wake up every morning, like how long I slept, the level of sleep, tracking my stress levels. So now I can see like, okay, I was crazy stressed at 4:30 yesterday. Who called me at 4:30? Now I know people who call me. I'm like, okay.
Screen that call.
No, or if I have to take it, it's like, okay, I'm being conscious now. Like all that stuff matters. And it was like, really, I think Kobe was like the catalyst of it all because he was so maniacal in his approach to everything. And it was just a really competitive nature. And he got that from MJ. MJ was just crazy. He was a crazy competitor where it was detrimental to himself. But Kobe took it to another level with how he took that competitive nature and he was like, how can I build an advantage for myself? So let me go find things that no one else has access to it that I can have. And then he showed us that. And so now we're following that. So this is basically the same thing. Like, what are ways that I can be a little bit better than everybody else? And it's going to give me longevity. Longevity is the big thing too. Like longevity is part of the core of the Sanctuary in terms of you should decide when you want to stop playing basketball. Like how many athletes in history can say they were the reason why they stopped playing. Like, all right, I can keep playing, but I'm fine. Like most of the time, someone else is telling you it's over.
We saw each other briefly in Vegas. You know, when we look at what the Sanctuary represents, when you look at sort of some of the conversations you had in Vegas, when you're talking to the rookies, and you think about Andre in 2004, and the things you wish you knew then that you know now, or even with the start of this program 4 years ago, what are your sort of like tentpole pieces of advice? I feel like you've touched on a few of them already, but just in general, if it's like I got 5 minutes with a kid and I'm like, I need to get through to you, what are you telling them?
The main thing is take care of the game. Like that's like I gave him a whole spiel first, and then it ends with what I'm saying is take care of the game. Like, all right, we did our job. We're passing you the torch. Now it's your turn to take care of the game. And so it's almost like talking to a teenager. Like, we know how we were as teenagers, and a lot of us have teenage kids. Like, they're stupid. Like, we were stupid too. Like, they just don't know, but they think they know. And you have to get them to understand, it's like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to keep you from making the same mistakes I did. And we heard the same thing too when we were teenagers. So it's like, I'm only giving you this information. This is for you. This won't help me in any way, but it is my duty, and you're supposed to do this for the next group. And so it's really that. Take care of the game, be respectful to the game, look out for each other. Like, that's one of the other things. Like, make sure you look after your brother, regardless of what team he's on. Like, you got to look out for your guys. Like, you got to be able to tell somebody that you need help, because we all need help. And the last thing I leave with, have fun. Because once you get into this world of business, once you start seeing how things work, and you're really just a commodity, it can take the joy and the love away from it. And once that happens, like, I've been there. Like, I went there in Philly for about 2 years, where like I had the dream house, that had the three-car garage. Like, I had it all. Like, I thought I had life, and then I just wasn't happy. Like, I gave it all away and got into like a small 1-bedroom apartment. It was just like, all right, I'm gonna just learn myself. And so it's like, you gotta have that joy, you gotta have fun. And they have to be kids, because I think they forget they're 18, 19 years old. Like, I talk to all the richest people in the world, and they all say, like, it took me, 30 years, 40 years. They get money earlier now, but it's like they're in their 30s. So they're a lot more mature, so they can handle it. All of them say, if I had you guys success and money at 20, I wouldn't be successful. Like, I would never reach where I am now, because like, there's no way I would be able to understand what all this means. Like, I would spiral out of control. And so I also give the guys that type of confidence in themselves. Like, no, you are different. All professional athletes are geniuses, regardless of how we're perceived, because it's not just how you perform on the court, but it's like processing. Because all professional athletes we just process things a lot faster than the average human being. Like, the average human being reacts in seconds. We react within hundreds and thousands of a second, which is different level. You're talking about, what movie was that? Limitless. Like, we're natural limitless. Like, it's just naturally in our blood.
Doing it against other people doing it at the same time.
Right.
So it's not even like you're in a kitchen where you're doing it in a place where it's like you're doing it where you have someone who's operating it. I will say, to your point about look out for each other, it's one of the really cool things about this place. Yesterday, before we did the ep with the Thompsons, Jaylen Brown came over to say hi to everyone for a second. It's sort of a good example of like, these guys just get to play against each other. They never really you don't get to hang out unless you have a USA experience, or you have, even an all-star, it's so, condensed that you don't actually get, and there's so many people around, you don't get the time to kind of spend time with each other. And so having an understanding of like, whether or not you ever end up as teammates, you're in this shared bond, and you are better off. Everyone doesn't have to be best friends, but you're better off like understanding each other, rather than it just being sort of like a faceless thing over there that's just competition, and that's it.
No, 100%. And there was, I laugh about it all the time, because I just saw Jose Calderon. So when you play against Spain, when you play against Argentina, when you play against certain countries in international competition, like, there's a level of dislike that borderlines hate. And like, it turns personal. But now we're 40, 50 years old, and I'm interacting with those guys. I see a few of them like, man, I was like one of those guys where I was like, I'll run through you. But now that it's over, it's like, there's a bond there, and I had to remind some of the folks like, no, that was just on the court. And so we're taught as athletes to compete against each other and like kind of hate each other, because like, that's what drives even more attention. That drives more people to watch. But it's hard, but it's hard to separate that. Like, you got to really decompress. And now we're just coming up with the formula of how to properly decompress, how to properly not hold on to things. But we're a small community, and we just got to continue to bond and build. Like what I just saw what Jose Calderon was doing was amazing. I'm gonna steal some of those ideas. Actually, it was really good.
You're still competing.
Yeah, it was good. It was really, it was powerful.
Andre Iguodala, we're at time. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for all being here. Thank you guys for listening to us for half an hour. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Yes, thanks.